Soul power from the spirit-wandering realm? As Xiao Yan watched the 7 blood-white eyeballs emerging from the face of the 7-eyed evil god, a tremendous ripple surged through his spirit palace. An unprecedented unease spread throughout his body. This guy's strength had clearly reached the 6th reincarnation stage. With the addition of the mysterious angel's power, evil energy, and now the soul power from the spirit-wandering realm, the pressure on Xiao Yan increased dramatically. 7-eye power. Just as the words left his mouth, white flames began to flicker on the blank face of the 7-eyed evil god. These white flames were covered in a nauseating, foul, decaying demonic aura that slowly began to erode everything in this realm. Vroom, vroom, vroom. 7 eyeball-shaped symbols surrounded by flames gradually detached, forming a ring around Xiao Yan. The power of the 7-eye symbols was slowly constructing an ancient array of light. At the moment the array began to take shape, Xiao Yan's control over his flame mantra, dragon god transformation, and other powers instantly fell into stillness. It was as if the array constructed by the 7-eye power possessed a strange power to suppress Xiao Yan's ability to use Do techniques. Once the array took full form, it could completely extinguish his desire to perform any Do techniques. Just as Xiao Yan sensed the disturbance, 7 rays of intertwining light shone brightly, and the array was complete. The 7-spoke divine binding array from the angel kingdom. This array was different from the ones used by Do array masters. Xiao Yan could not crack it because the angel kingdom's array was specifically designed to restrict a single enemy's ability to use Do techniques or powers, unlike the arrays of Do array masters, which were meant to resist countless enemies. Helplessness, confusion, and despair gradually filled Xiao Yan's heart, as the eerie and fierce emotions, combined with the 7-spoke divine binding array, slowly devoured his will. Xiao Yan felt like a king of fire, wielding endless sacred flame power, but was mercilessly imprisoned in a barren land. There was no way to break the situation, no way to escape. It seemed the only thing left to do was wait for an endless, sunless death. Humans, after all, were made of flesh and blood. Without a body, even the strongest would be left to protect only their soul's origin from harm. In that case, their overall power would suffer a sharp decline. Let alone the fact that the 7-eyed evil god's attack was now mixed with the angel kingdom's unique power. An array formed using the angel kingdom's special power interfered with and restricted the enemy's ability to execute Do techniques and powers. Right now, Xiao Yan, aside from using the power of the 7 sacred flames, found that all his other Do techniques had become unfamiliar to him. Trapped under the array's influence, he could not gather the reincarnation power instantly, let alone use any Do techniques. A 5 reincarnation stage powerhouse without the aid of Do techniques was no different from an ordinary person. This is the power of my evil artifact, specifically prepared for you. The 7-spoke divine binding array of the 7 soul eyes. Looking at Xiao Yan, who was now bound in place like a sinner, the 7-eyed evil god erupted in manic laughter. His entire body swayed, and his face darkened, with no features remaining, like a faceless, ominous figure. The chill from his appearance was unnerving. Even someone as formidable as Xiao Yan was nothing before him. I'll use this strongest attack to make you clearly understand how foolish it was to provoke us. Boom, boom, boom. The 7-eyed evil god began chanting, though his face had disappeared, and it was impossible to tell where the voice came from. The energy in the sky began to gather around his body. It was the angel's power, the purest form of angel's power. The 7-eyed evil god intended to use the forbidden light technique to strike Xiao Yan down. He knew that Xiao Yan, with his 7 sacred flames, had an almost unfathomable resistance to evil energy. Only the purest forbidden light technique could harm him. Though using this technique meant temporarily stripping himself of his evil power, he no longer cared. As long as he could erase Xiao Yan, the Xiao clan's descendant, he would have fulfilled Lu Hui's dying wish. As for poison god Mysterious Crane, that person would pay the price sooner or later. The incantation for the pure forbidden light technique required considerable time, but the 7-eyed evil god had long been prepared. A small, pure ray of dawn descended from the heavens, quietly encircling him. With such a powerful attack, he clearly intended to crush everything around him. Rumble. As the energy gathered, the seven-eyed evil god's body surged to the peak of the heavenly mountain demon veins. With his hands raised in a skyward position, he stood in stark contrast to Xiao Yan, who was suppressed below by the seven-spoke divine binding array. Damn it, at this rate, once the forbidden light technique arrives, my body will be completely destroyed. Xiao Yan's gaze grew cold. This body is the best vessel for cultivating the dragon god transformation. Xiao Yan would not easily abandon it unless absolutely necessary. Currently, Xiao Yan is unable to break through the restrictions of the formation. He cannot use any combat techniques, and the only attack he can muster is the fusion of the sacred flame and sacred patterns that have already gathered on his body, used to counter the seven-eyed evil god. Rip. As both of them were gathering their immense attacks, the sky was suddenly awakened by a faint tearing sound. Xiao Yan. The three women were the first to emerge from the endless clouds, their beautiful eyes sweeping across the scene, instantly locking onto Xiao Yan trapped within the formation. The cold, murderous intent in their eyes was undeniable. Don't come closer. Be careful. Just as Xiao Yan was about to speak, he saw the heavenly mountain demon veins surge in front of him. A pitch-black energy surged wildly, violently stirring the world. Before the three women could stabilize their figures, they were pulled into a dim, evil energy prison formed by the heavenly mountain demon veins. A wave of terror spread, a fear that seemed to emanate from the very depths of their souls. The pitch-black energy swirled like a massive evil claw thousands of feet long, its size enormous, its demonic power overwhelming. It seemed that with one strike, it could obliterate the entire ferocious soul domain. What is this power? The three women's chests heaved violently, their deep unease clear in their eyes. It was obvious that the seven-eyed evil god had already anticipated someone would interfere and had prepared a foolproof plan. Ha ha ha. Xiao Yan, today, this place will be your tomb. Let me show you this grand spectacle. The insane, maniacal voice slowly rang out from the void in the sky, as countless pure light energy particles began to fall, imprisoning the movements of the three women. The seven-spoke divine binding formation stirred slightly, releasing the purest halo, slowly burning Xiao Yan's skin and imprisoning his soul. Blood began to flow slowly from the gaps in his skin, but it was not the usual red blood. Instead, it was a dark, sinister blood in color, infused with malevolent energy. The light attribute Forbidden Curse was enough to rival the great immortal arts of the Great Thousand Worlds. Moreover, the power now being wielded by the seven-eyed evil god was no less than the most advanced immortal techniques. Mortals could not resist the light forbidden techniques, for their power was sufficient to erase any strong being with ease. It would completely erase them from the very source, even from their roots. Even someone as strong as the Demon Emperor, who possessed the secret of immortality, would never dare to face an angel head-on. For this is the oldest and most sacred power in the universe. Any being attempting to resist the light forbidden techniques would be branded as a heretic and punished accordingly. Before the light, no matter how powerful the force, it seemed insignificant, because the power of light can restrict, sever, and even ignore the power of heretics, carrying out one-sided judgment and erasure. Xiao Yan. The cries of Undying and Yun sounded as they were blocked by the prison. Through the endless void and the heavenly mountain demon veins, they gazed at the seven-eyed evil god's faceless form, feeling a sinister and fierce aura rising, making their hearts grow colder. Undying's expression darkened, her jade hand clenching tightly, a deep unease rising within her heart. This unease was directly tied to Xiao Yan, trapped within the formation, his skin marked by glaring bloodstains that tugged at the hearts of the two women. Yun's beautiful eyes were fixed on Xiao Yan, watching as he was tortured by the formation's burning pain. Her face wore an unmistakable look of concern, covered in evil power, but containing pure light energy within. What exactly is this seven-eyed evil god? At the same time, a heavy expression appeared on Duan Qifei's delicate face. After watching for a moment, Her face even twitched in discomfort. The attack that the seven-eyed evil god was unleashing was now strong enough to threaten her life, and even the survival of the entire ferocious soul domain. Attack! Boom! Mu Yingying and Yun exchanged a glance, and in an instant, an overwhelming offensive was unleashed. Waves of sacred flame surged toward the prison, trying to break it and rush to Xiao Yan's aid. Whoosh whoosh. Xiao Yan's eyes were fixed on the seven-eyed evil god who was gathering the forbidden light technique in the sky. As the light particles gathered in the sky, Xiao Yan's body bristled with goosebumps, as if he were a porcupine. The light forbidden technique being chanted by the seven-eyed evil god, even in its chanting phase, made Xiao Yan feel an indescribable sense of impending destruction. If it succeeded, it would surely annihilate all life within the ferocious soul domain, reducing it to dust. Moments later, Xiao Yan's body began to violently tremble. Brilliant flames, like sacred radiance, blazed forth, breaking through the formation's shackles and attempting to clash with the seven-eyed evil god. In an instant, a surge of immense power gathered around her. The two women, who had been struggling to break the demonic claw prison, trembled violently, letting out a startled low growl. The two graceful figures slowly lifted their tear-streaked, anguished faces and roared in fury, their eyes filled with deep fear. "This is my battle." Crack. The demonic blood surged, its boundless malevolent intent, paired with the sacred flame shackles garment, began to break the suppression of the seven-spoke divine binding array, leaving a trail of destruction as it shattered. In the blink of an eye, the formation was broken, but the lingering power from the evil artifacts array still restricted Xiao Yan's ability to use his combat techniques. Boom! The seven-spoke divine binding array that had enveloped Xiao Yan's body silently cracked, but countless tiny lights still hovered around him. At that moment, Xiao Yan waved his hand, and the demonic claw prison that surrounded the three women exploded instantly. "Xiao Yan, are you all right?" Worry and pain filled the eyes of the two women as they rushed to Xiao Yan's side. A complex emotion passed between them, and moments later, a steady flow of sacred flame energy tried to enter his body. "Xiao Yan, go down. We'll handle things here." After a brief hesitation, Duan Qifei spoke gravely. Mu Yingying and Yun, upon hearing this, also nodded in agreement, clearly supporting Duan Qifei's decision. The strength of the three women should not be underestimated. They were more than capable of dealing with the seven-eyed evil god. Xiao Yan, now battered and restricted, could no longer deal any real damage to the seven-eyed evil god by staying here. Xiao Yan remained silent. The mighty seven-colored flames and seven sacred patterns surged from his body. Under the protection of the sacred flame shackles garment, they spread across the sky. The holy and supreme flames of heaven and earth fiercely crashed into the vast sky, distorting the entire heavenly mountain demon veins as if it would collapse at any moment. With his actions, Xiao Yan had already proven to the three women, showing them his resolve. "Xiao Yan, how can you still be playing the hero at a time like this? Continue like this, and you will die." Seeing that the two women's persuasion had no effect, Duan Qifei's cold eyes fixed on Xiao Yan. With a wave of her jade hand, the thousand-mechanism ghost umbrella appeared, and strange, powerful forces began to ripple from the void around Xiao Yan. These forces just began to manifest when they suddenly pulled Xiao Yan's body downwards. Drip. Unfortunately, such terrifying energy from Duan Qifei was instantly neutralized under the protection of the sacred flame shackles and the seven sacred patterns. Xiao Yan's gaze never left the seven-eyed evil god standing atop the heavenly mountain demon veins. Do you need us to do anything?" Mu Yingying and Yun exchanged a glance, their beautiful eyes flashing for a moment before the brilliant sacred flame and reincarnation power in their bodies quietly withdrew back inside. "Protect this world beneath the sky. This is my war." Xiao Yan's eyelids fluttered slightly, and then he spoke softly, his endless wrath and murderous intent reverberating like thunder across the entire sky. "All right." The two women exchanged a glance before, with Duan Qifei, they released a torrent of power from their bodies. In an instant, They formed dozens of protective layers, shielding the entire sky and the surrounding void. Since you like this world-annihilating intent, let me show you the wrath of the sacred flames master. A smile appeared on Xiao Yan's calm face. Since the seven-eyed evil god wanted to use forbidden techniques to erase him, Xiao Yan would make him feel the fury of the sacred flame. The source fire of the seven-colored sacred flame slowly flowed out from Xiao Yan's body, and the seven sacred patterns began to hum. A dazzling sun, capable of illuminating the entire dark universe, began to absorb countless energies. The restriction on his combat techniques only proved that the seven-eyed evil god feared the power of Xiao Yan at his peak. But the seven sacred flames had already fused with his flesh and soul. He could command them without needing any combat techniques. Since the seven-eyed evil god was so confident that his forbidden technique could destroy him, Xiao Yan would repay him in kind, using the power of the sacred flame to shatter his confidence and beliefs. At the same time, he would show the evil creatures coveting the vast territory of the Great Thousand Worlds just how terrifying the young genius of this world truly was. Imitating me? Too bad you don't understand the power of the angel's strength, nor what a forbidden technique truly is. The power of a forbidden technique is not something an insignificant creature like you can contend with. Once the light forbidden technique of this evil god descends, not only will the ferocious soul domain be completely destroyed, but countless regions of the ghost realm will also collapse entirely. This is the fate of those who oppose the extraterritorial realm. Restricted by the seven-spoke divine binding formation, Xiao Yan couldn't even use his combat techniques. How could he possibly fight back? This battle, from the very start, was destined to end in one way. For the seven-eyed evil god, it was a revenge. A holy war that would truly mark the declaration of war between the extraterritorial evil clan and the Great Thousand Worlds. And above all, it was a fight that was impossible to lose. Forbidden art of light, wail of despair. Once it descended, the vast void of the ghost realm would be completely destroyed. The forbidden art, which had become a term exclusively associated with the angel kingdom and even the holy see under its command, had power enough to rival great, middle, and minor immortal techniques, or even the pinnacle immortal arts. Across the entire sky world, countless light points, as small as sand grains, fell from the sky, gradually surrounding the seven-eyed evil god. A brilliant scene of light was rapidly solidifying. Within those waves, it felt like the wrath of the gods, their divine might overwhelming and unmatched. Xiao Yan's gaze was indifferent, as the seven sacred patterns, seemingly provoked, continuously released ancient divine power. Under his control, they slowly began to merge. What's happening? The fusion has been interrupted? Just as the seven-colored sacred patterns were about to merge, an interference from deep within his soul completely halted it. Xiao Yan's expression grew grim. Is this the residual power from the seven-spoke divine formation? The bizarre scene in front of him made Xiao Yan realize something was wrong. This formation didn't just restrict his combat techniques. It even imprisoned his power to fuse the seven-colored sacred patterns. The seven-eyed evil god had clearly prepared well before attacking, and now Xiao Yan finally understood why the evil god seemed so confident. Wait, what is this? The seven-colored sacred patterns, having failed to merge, slowly drifted in front of Xiao Yan. His eyes widened in shock as he saw strange images within the surrounding void. It was a dark, unknown world, where no force existed, save for a small, palm-sized bronze cauldron spinning in the void. Chaotic, ancient, sacred, countless powerful energies that Xiao Yan recognized slowly emanated from this ancient cauldron. Is this where the flame god's cauldron is located? The failed fusion of the seven-colored sacred patterns, especially with the third sacred flame attempting to merge, had led Xiao Yan to the very location of the flame god's cauldron. This artifact stood among the seven great artifacts, and Xiao Yan speculated its power was at least on par with the god-slaying ruler, if not stronger. Listen to my call. Join me in obliterating the evil. With a mental motion, Xiao Yan silently prayed, and as he did so, the ancient cauldron seemed to respond, slowly responding to Xiao Yan's summons. Break the demon with the morning light of radiance, endless goddess of light. Assist me in cleansing the world's impurities. Forbidden art of light, wail of despair. At the same time, the chant of the forbidden art was completed, and a vast demonic sound echoed across the entire sky world. Countless pure white light strands, sacred to the extreme, with a purifying aura like morning dew, descended from the heavenly mountain, from the very peak of the sky. The light strands burned like torches, scorching the soul and purifying the spirit, as if any trace of evil would be endlessly tormented and eroded. The power of the light strands was only the opening act, and above the seven-eyed evil god's head, a near-transparent white sun slowly floated, so unique it seemed to exist in name only. But it was precisely this extreme contrast that kept Ying, Yun, and the other women on edge. That white sun was the most destructive force. Tear. As the light strands fell, all of Xiao Yan's energy evaporated instantly. Even the surrounding air, the earth's energy, and the evil aura were all completely obliterated. From a glance, the sky appeared to be gnawed by a greedy divine beast, riddled with countless holes. Pure white light began to surge from the seven-eyed evil god's body, radiating a brilliant, purifying light. Slowly, angelic wings began to form behind him. Had Xiao Yan not known this being's true nature, he would have sworn this divine power made the evil god appear like an earthly angel of order. Everything will end here. With a raised hand, he slowly dragged the white sun into position, locking his gaze directly onto Xiao Yan's body and soul, leaving him no way to retreat or escape. Countless low growls of lament echoed, like prisoners, guilty of unspeakable crimes, repenting and pleading in their desperation. But as these low cries rang out, they were like ancient, divine seals of light, locking Xiao Yan in the void. Countless light points, light strands tilted and flew rapidly, surrounding Xiao Yan, forming a white heavenly arena. The shadows and light flitted by, and the world above the entire firmament began to distort and shatter, seemingly unable to withstand the blow from the sunlight. The sunlight began to move, slowly shooting toward Xiao Yan. The light threads and points it stirred along the way transformed into an endless holy flame at that moment, ruthlessly whipping at Xiao Yan's body, skin, and soul with the most severe punishment. A vast forbidden technique, composed of billions of rays of light, had a power no less than that of the pinnacle immortal arts. Back when Xiao Yan had undergone trials in the ghost realm, the forbidden techniques used by the light demon and others were only strong enough to rival minor immortal arts. But now, the forbidden technique wielded by the seven-eyed evil god was far too powerful, capable of completely erasing Xiao Yan, the sinner, once and for all. The power of the angel, the forbidden technique, truly formidable. Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes, making no move. He knew that no matter what, he could not escape the confinement and struggle within the heavenly arena. Because he carried the demonic bloodline, his fighting techniques were suppressed. At this moment, he was like a demon despised by the countless beings of the great thousand worlds, enduring inhuman torture. The light surged, seemingly forming chains of light that completely bound Xiao Yan's body, skin, soul, and all his powers. The light was as merciless as molten magma, whipping and burning into Xiao Yan's skin, flesh, and bones, subjecting him to a sacred yet punishing purification. The power of the light element forbidden technique twisted time and space in an eerie and unnatural way. If it weren't for the demonic power, Xiao Yan would still have a chance to resist. But sadly, demons and angels were two entirely different concepts. To die under the light forbidden technique of this evil god could be said to honor your Xiao clan heritage. Now, listen to the sound of annihilation. The seven-eyed evil god screamed maniacally. His featureless face slowly morphed into its original appearance, with 7 evil eyes floating within, as if admiring his masterpiece. The sunlight's rays grew closer, and Xiao Yan felt himself trapped and bound in the heavenly arena, his flesh and blood becoming blurry. Blood uncontrollably flowed from his body, as if this was his fate, one he had brought upon himself. Despair, death, and countless other sensations filled his mind. I am a demon and the descendant of the Xiao clan. I have no regrets. Even at this moment of life and death, Xiao Yan slowly revealed a smile, and the demonic blood within his chest began to boil and tremble. In front of his chest, the 7-colored sacred patterns wriggled, seemingly crossing endless time and space, summoning an ancient bronze cauldron from the distant world beyond. That was the true form of the flame god's cauldron. Boom! The force of the forbidden technique raged like the fury of the heavens. Countless light threads, empowered by the angel's power, fell mercilessly, launching the final attack on Xiao Yan, executing and erasing everything that was him. The light forbidden technique, transformed into the sunlight, howled through the void. The entire world twisted in a diseased, distorted manner. In just a moment, it drew closer and closer to Xiao Yan. The sounds of wailing and howling around the sunlight grew louder, constantly gnawing at Xiao Yan's soul, leaving him unable to respond. This level of attack from the 7-eyed evil god was clearly a full-out effort to utterly destroy Xiao Yan once and for all. The confinement of the heavenly arena's void could no longer withstand the overwhelming divine power of the light forbidden technique. Slowly, it began to twist and shatter. The rays of the sunlight illuminated the entire sky, and all powers seemed feeble in the face of this forbidden technique. The pure light radiating from the sunlight was immune to any force in this world, growing ever closer to Xiao Yan, annihilating and devouring all of him. As the forbidden technique of the sunlight descended, it felt as though all the world's light, all the morning rays, had transformed into endless light blades, attacking relentlessly, destroying Xiao Yan. The heavenly arena shattered and vanished in an instant. Countless pure light threads fell, mercilessly twisting Xiao Yan's skin and soul. The sunlight finally approached directly above Xiao Yan's head, and pure white light rippled out, ruthlessly blasting downward. No! At the moment the forbidden technique of the sunlight struck, a hysterical, earth-shattering roar emanated from the slender figure standing quietly below in the firmament. The sunlight bloomed above Xiao Yan's head like a star in the universe, needing no further description. The pure light, like the grim reaper, silently severed life, rapidly stripping Xiao Yan of his very existence. Blood splattered at this moment, the emaciated shadow resembling a withered flower, suffused with a tragic aura. Even the life force within him was fading at an astonishing speed. That was the power of the forbidden technique. The light forbidden technique cast by the 7-eyed evil god, who had reached the 6th reincarnation stage, was filled with divine might, capable of destroying heaven and earth. At this moment, Mu Yingying and Yun Yun were overwhelmed by an indescribable panic. Their delicate bodies trembled, and they moved through the void as if their very beings were on the verge of shattering. Their eyes, glowing red, seemed on the brink of bursting with an uncontrollable fury. In their blood-red eyes, there was a deep, unmatched sorrow and fury. Xiao Yan, that deceiver, that level of forbidden light technique was something he could never withstand. If the residual force of the forbidden technique were allowed to spread, even Xiao Yan's corpse would be completely obliterated, body and soul. Xiao Yan, you damn liar. You can't die. The two women flashed toward him, one after the other, and immediately embraced Xiao Yan's cold body. A vast force of origin power surged into Xiao Yan's body, like a flood breaking through a dam. But Xiao Yan was like a frozen corpse, offering no response. His withered body seemed as if even his soul had been erased in an instant by the forbidden technique. His flesh blurred, and countless strands of pure white forbidden light attached to his skin. His chest and body were pierced by large, gaping holes, revealing deep, bloody wounds. From these blood holes, pulses of Xiao clan bloodline energy, and even an increasingly strange and evil force, seemed to pulse, as if they were guarding or calling for some malevolent spirit. Could it be that someone as formidable as Xiao Yan has fallen to the forbidden technique of the 7-eyed evil god? The crisp sound of bones shattering rang out. Flesh and blood were instantly eroded, disintegrating in silence. The entire body was eerily still. No matter how one looked at it, it seemed like the body of someone already dead. Ha ha ha. This is the fate of those who oppose us from the extraterritorial realm. Xiao Yan is dead, and this war, we have won. Once they confirmed that Xiao Yan's life force had vanished into nothingness, the seven-eyed evil god's malevolent gaze surged with a wild joy. At last, he had avenged the ancestor, Lu Hui's twin eyes. These filthy humans would eventually pay for their crimes. Whether it was the Xiao clan, the poison god, or that so-called angel kingdom, they would all pay the price for their foolish actions, sooner or later. Xiao Yan's cold corpse floated silently in midair, suspended behind the two women. Tiny sparks, like dying fireflies, seemed to rise from his chest. Boom! The girl in front of Xiao Yan, whose originally dark and lustrous hair had now transformed into an eerie and light azure, stood frozen. Her mind was blank, consumed by a burning fury. Yun said nothing. Her delicate hand gripped Mu Yingying's cold arm tightly. No matter how the latter struggled and shouted, there was no sign of her letting go. What are you doing? Let me go. Mu Yingying's azure eyes were filled with an aching roar. She glared at the seven-eyed evil god, who was laughing maniacally in the sky, and shouted at Yun without turning her head. He wouldn't want to see this. Yun shook her head, and for the first time, a sad smile appeared on her calm face. I am Xiao Yan's wife. Mu Yingying seemed to know that what she was doing now was nothing but a futile effort, but at this moment, there was no other choice. You are no match for him. Yun gave a light laugh, gazing with lingering affection at the cold corpse behind them. In Yun's mind, Xiao Yan was never the arrogant type to boast. Yet the scene before her now made her heart turn to ice. I won't die so easily, at least. I will make sure you can leave here safely. Mu Yingying spoke in a grave tone, knowing that the challenges ahead would be insurmountable, but she had to try. Hoo, then let's do it together. The conversation between the two women froze in an instant. A grim expression appeared on their faces as their delicate bodies trembled. The sacred flame and reincarnation power surged and boiled over. This energy, something's wrong? In the distance, Duan Qifei was about to act, but the thousand-mechanism ghost umbrella in her arms sent a chilling, terrifying sensation into her heart. It felt as though some being even more horrifying and malevolent than the seven-eyed evil god was slowly awakening. Boom! A ripple of energy silently spread from the two women, transforming into a calm, protective force that surrounded them. Xiao Yan? Feeling the familiar energy fluctuations, the two women froze in place. Tears uncontrollably fell as their voices choked with emotion. Looking at the cold body in front of them, they saw it suddenly radiating glorious light, with countless flames roaring to life, forming towering peaks of flame, sacred mountains. The blood on his skin was instantly replaced by a blood-ink hue, and the body seemed to have been resurrected from the ashes. Even though the residual power of the forbidden light technique still lingered in the air, it had no effect on Xiao Yan's revival. He was reborn. I have never regretted the path I chose. Suddenly, an intense shockwave erupted from Xiao Yan's body, and in the blink of an eye, he sprang to life. The seven-colored flames slowly burned, turning this battered sky world into a fiery realm. At this moment, Xiao Yan's near-death body surprisingly began to recover. Countless flames of power surged out from Xiao Yan's body, then flowed back into his form, repairing and replenishing him. Both his body, which had been destroyed by the forbidden technique's attack, and the soul power that had been suppressed, were now fully restored, as if nothing had happened. It seemed as though the seven-eyed evil god's attack had never occurred. It hadn't caused any substantial harm to Xiao Yan at all. No, this is impossible. How could you survive the divine might of the forbidden light technique? At this moment, a boundless panic surged across the seven-eyed evil god's face, and his voice became a scream of disbelief. Is there really something in this world that the forbidden light technique cannot erase? Can there truly be an existence that the forbidden light technique cannot annihilate? The forbidden light technique is the purest divine power of the great thousand worlds, a terrifying force that suppresses any practitioner, no matter the attribute. The seven-eyed evil god had unparalleled confidence. He believed that the attack he had just launched could definitely erase any powerhouse below the sixth reincarnation stage. Moreover, in order to ensure success, he had even used the seven-spoke divine binding array to seal Xiao Yan's Do technique power, completely suppressing him. Yet, despite all his preparation, it had been all for nothing. In the sky, Xiao Yan's expression was indifferent, his body continuously replenished by the sacred flames. He had revived from the obliteration of the forbidden light technique. Xiao Yan didn't respond, instead offering a faint smile. With the protection of the demonic power and the undying and eternal strength, he himself was almost immortal. The power of the forbidden light technique was indeed formidable, but it had triggered the long-dormant demonic power inside Xiao Yan, allowing him to undergo a rebirth through the undying and eternal strength. The forbidden light technique is indeed powerful, but it is useless against me. Xiao Yan's large hand gently touched Mu Yingying and Yun Yun's delicate bodies, feeling the cold and sorrowful gazes from both. Their eyes met. He had truly been on the brink of death earlier, yet every word and action of the two women lingered in Xiao Yan's mind, impossible to erase. "I'm sorry." After a brief hesitation, Xiao Yan spoke first. "There won't be a next time." The cold gazes of the two women softened slightly. Their eyes reddened, and they slowly left the sky, returning to Duan Qifei's side. The three of them together maintained the energy barrier to ensure that the battle waves would not reach the ferocious soul domain below. No need to run. With his body fully restored, Xiao Yan smiled as he watched the seven-eyed evil god fleeing in all directions. To cast the forbidden light technique, the seven-eyed evil god had stripped himself of all his evil power. Since the forbidden light technique couldn't erase Xiao Yan, now, he had already lost. "I don't know where I went wrong." At this moment, the seven-eyed evil god's aged body hovered in midair, staring helplessly at Xiao Yan, who still radiated with the divine sacred flames. He spoke weakly. "You've walked a road of no return. With my power, I will gather the divine forces of heaven and earth. The flame god's cauldron shall appear." The sea of flames surged and boiled, and with Xiao Yan's authoritative voice, one sacred flame volcano after another erupted across the world. Moments later, Xiao Yan spread his palm, and a bronze ancient cauldron slowly floated toward the seven-eyed evil god. It moved lightly, leaving no trace, but it exuded an overwhelming sense of invincibility. The power contained within this ancient cauldron seemed even more terrifying than the forbidden light technique. "Death? Then I'll take you down with me." The seven-eyed evil god raised his head, his face filled with a final, desperate madness. Boom, boom, boom. The ancient, heavy bell rang, and the seven sacred patterns seemed to have been summoned, falling into the holes of the flame god's cauldron's divine inscriptions. In an instant, terrifying flames that could shake heaven and earth burst forth, instantly crushing the seven-eyed evil god's attempt to self-destruct. Who are you?" The seven-eyed evil god stopped fleeing. Even as he was trapped inside the flame god's cauldron, constantly being burned and purified, his immense evil eye still carried an expression of disbelief. "I am a demon," Xiao Yan whispered, his deep eyes suddenly transforming into a strange blood-ink color. Boom! With the infusion of the seven sacred patterns, the flame god's cauldron grew to an enormous size. An ancient flame serpent formed from seven colored flames appeared. The ancient flame serpent seemed to embody everything. As soon as it emerged, it released waves of seven colored flames, tearing and whipping through the sky. The cold eyes of the seven colored flame serpent locked onto the seven-eyed evil god. The ancient and vast celestial sound of the flame god's cauldron echoed, as the seven-eyed evil god's power and life were slowly being obliterated. The raging flames scorched, devouring and refining the residual evil forces in the sky world and the fluctuations left by the forbidden techniques. Inside the flame god's cauldron, the consciousness of the seven-eyed evil god was completely incinerated, leaving only a nearly pure white light orb that remained within the cauldron, impervious to destruction despite being continuously roasted. Both of you, my wives, I apologize for causing you concern. After completing this, Xiao Yan returned to the base of the sky world and once again joined the two women, encircling them. The earlier scene had been shocking. The strong beings of the angel kingdom are naturally potent sources of soul power. Though this person became one of the evil gods after joining the extraterritorial realm, after refining him, the remaining essence of his soul will greatly benefit you. Watching the three of them playfully banter, Duan Qifei cleared her throat, then shook her head, preparing to head down below. Now that the seven-eyed evil god had fallen, it was time for this war to come to a complete end. However, seeing the affectionate interaction between the three of them still made Duan Qifei feel quite envious, but she had already made up her mind and would not disturb Xiao Yan anymore. From here on, they would only be friends and nothing more. At least, as friends, the beautiful memories from the past could be preserved forever. Refined. Watching Duan Qifei leave, Xiao Yan waved his hand, and waves of fiery power surged into the flame god's cauldron like lightning, continuously refining the essence of the soul. The fusion of the seven-colored sacred flame origin and the sacred inscription power allowed Xiao Yan to temporarily communicate with the chaotic void within the flame god's cauldron, enabling him to borrow this supreme artifact for a short time. The only flaw was that he could only summon the flame god's cauldron once a month. It seemed that after he completed his current tasks, he would have to journey to the chaotic void and retrieve the cauldron. It's done. After completing this, Xiao Yan let out a heavy sigh of relief, ignoring the slow refinement of the evil god's essence within the cauldron, and quietly made his way into the embrace of the two women. Loving the kingdom is one thing, but loving beauty even more. The sky world gradually grew quiet, but no one noticed the faint, dark lines creeping like chains, slowly marking the entire ghost realm. It seemed as though the entire ghost realm's passage to the extraterritorial evil clan's plane and the countless pathways to the great thousand worlds were being quietly shrouded and isolated by some unseen force. In addition, down below in the demonic sea, the roar of demonic sounds echoed, and endless battle fires appeared in the skies above the demonic sea and the ferocious soul domain. Even without the leadership of the half-demonic god and black absolute king, the extraterritorial evil army charged forward like a flood, relentlessly battling the powerful beings of the ferocious soul domain. There was no sign of panic or disarray despite the absence of their commanders. It was incredibly strange. Or perhaps, the seven-eyed evil god was not the true leader of this extraterritorial evil army.